like we're good. All right. So, Alex, thank you for doing 5 weeks of nutrition with me. It's been super awesome to work with you. I want to talk a little bit about your clean principles that we did before we started and how they've kind of changed going forward. So the first one that we talk about is consistency, right? So when we first met, tell me if you remember anything about like what you were consistent with.
Breakfast, eggs and coffee.
Breakfast, eggs and coffee. Yeah, I know we kind of already did this, but I do want to document this because this is really great and awesome stuff. So the first time we met, you were consistent. You told me breakfast, coffee, and eggs, and I think we could agree that I saw that pretty consistently throughout our nutrition meetings and throughout your food log. That was something you were really good at and didn't really change a whole lot of. So talk to me now about after the 5 weeks, what has stayed consistent? What is something that you do all the time with your nutrition?
Lunch, dinner, tracking, which wasn't in my life before, but it's part of what I need to do. So I've been doing it, and I feel that even though the 5 weeks might be up, I'll still continue to do it just because it helps me keep in mind this is where you were, this is where you want to be, and just feel like for me it holds me accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's safe to say that your breakfast consistency has stayed the same throughout, but I know we struggled a little bit throughout the 5 weeks with like sometimes we were having lunch, sometimes we weren't, but we've been able to really dial that in, and even like you were saying, 5 minutes ago, your timing is even like you eat this at the same times every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, tell me what time you eat breakfast. Like, what were you saying one more time?
So breakfast I'll try to have by 8 a.m. And then my lunch will be between 12:30 and 1. I try not to go past that time. I don't eat past 8 p.m. So my dinner will be anywhere between 6:30 and 7. Is what I try to keep it to.
Yeah.
And those are things that I've been trying to keep consistent since like we started this. Try to make sure that I ate at the same time, or try to keep it close to that time. And not, my biggest thing is not eat past 8 p.m. Not because I'm somebody who's fasting or anything like that, because I haven't tried that yet. But I just feel that after 8 p.m., I'm trying to get ready for bed. And
absolutely.
Depending on what I eat, it's not going to help me. So,
was eating at certain times something that you did before?
No, I just ate whenever.
Okay. I like the honesty. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Other than breakfast, because breakfast I try to make sure that I would eat as early as I possibly could. But other than that, like I just, whenever I felt hungry, I would eat. And there'd be times where I wouldn't feel hungry. And instead of eating 3-4 times a day, I would just be eating twice a day.
Yeah. Do you feel like finding the times that you now eat, you are hungry around those times? Like it's helped you stay hungry and like ready for those meals?
Yeah, it's helped me stay consistent with like when I'm eating to make sure, and I know already my body around that time it starts to get hungry.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that that's what I've gotten used to.
Yeah.
And so before it was just like eat whenever, so my body wouldn't have a schedule. My body was just all over the place. So if I wasn't hungry and I ate twice in the day and it was 9 or 10 o'clock at night and I was hungry, I'd go look for something to eat. It's just like, oh, I'm hungry, I better eat. To where now I've kind of stopped doing that.
Yeah. So next on our clean principles, we have liquids. Talk to me a little bit about that. What does that look like now?
A lot more water. A lot more water intake. I know I'm drinking more water. I can tell that I'm drinking more water. And it's something that's kind of become a thing that I don't think about anymore. Where at first I was like, well, I better measure out how much water I'm drinking or try to keep it close to this amount of water. Now I just drink it and don't even think about it. And I know that I am because there's a bottle that I keep and I'm having to refill it about 4 or 5 times a day, sometimes even more.
Nice.
So that's kind of what I kept it to, and the way that I've been able to know that I'm drinking more water. To before, I would have that bottle of water full in the morning, and by the time I go to bed, it wouldn't even be close to empty.
Okay. And then previously when we met, coffee and iced tea, which you called sugar water, is something that you mentioned in your liquids. What does that look like now?
Coffee's still the same as far as like I only drink 1 cup of coffee in the morning. The iced tea I don't drink as much as I used to, and I try to be mindful of that because I know that one of the things we had talked about was see how your body feels after you have certain foods, sugars being one of them. And I noticed that I wouldn't feel very good. Sometimes I feel like I crash, or sometimes I would just feel like I needed a nap. And I just figured, let me try something different because I've been doing the same thing for so long and I haven't seen the benefits of it. If I'm investing the time and you're investing the time to help me, the least that I can do out of respect for you is actually follow what you're telling me.
In respect for yourself and your own body, you know, like this is more than just me. I'm here as guidance, but this is for you. So that's awesome. Eating out is the next one on our clean principles. What does that look like for you now?
I've lost stock in Chick-fil-A because I haven't been there as much as they like me to. No, but I mean it's been good because it's been one of those things where we try to get creative with the food that you make, so you're not always eating the same thing. Or if you are eating the same thing, you find different ways to make it.
Yeah.
And so before I would be very quick to say I want something quick and easy and let's just get it done so I can eat. Now it's more so I need to put time into this and think about what I'm going to eat because whatever I put in is going to determine one, how I feel, and with tracking my food, it'll also play a big role into whether I can eat something else later or not, whether I can have a snack or not. And I feel that if I'm doing a disservice to myself by going out to eat and then I go ride my bike and then I just completely feel like trash.
Yeah. So before, when we first met, I have written down that it was like 1 to 2 times a week, and I do have Chick-fil-A in there. So I know Chick-fil-A is a little dear to your heart, and that's not to say you can't ever have it, right? It's everything in moderation. I feel like I could argue that we've learned. So that's awesome. It's diminished a lot. I know prior to starting Nutrition 2, like we have kind of gone into. We went into the shutdown and, you know, businesses weren't as easily accessible. But even with that being said, to, you know, take that and change it to where it's like, now I'm being aware of if I can have this, if it's going to help me and fuel my body, like that's awesome. I like hearing that. Next is adequate calories. So talk to me a little bit about that. How do you feel about that?
I know we made some changes at the beginning because I wasn't eating enough to take in the calories that I needed. So that I found very interesting because one, I didn't know how many calories I needed per day. It was nothing that I was aware of. And two, I didn't. It was one of those things that you go out to eat and you don't pay mind to any because you think, oh well, I'm eating this and it seems healthy, but then when you look up exactly what you're eating, you come to find out that maybe it's not exactly what you think.
Yeah.
A lot of things like anything that has sauce with it.
Dude, sauces they're full of extra things.
And that's the thing. Like you don't think about it, and then once you see how much carbs they have, you see how much sugar they have, and you're like, but I ate something that feels good when I'm eating it, and I feel good because I'm like, oh, I made a healthier choice. Then you still feel like the same as if you would have had something that was completely garbage.
Now, do you feel like you were eating enough before?
No.
And you feel like you're eating enough now?
I am, and I know that I am because before when I would eat about twice a day and I would go out for a bike ride, it was just like a constant, like all the time, my body would just feel good at first, and then it just crash, and I'd cramp up, and I would feel like I just didn't have any power, like my cardio was out, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like I feel like I have no cardio. I feel like my legs are just cramping. I feel like I'm hurting, and it become a struggle. And it's funny that by keeping track of what I'm eating and trying to make a better choice as far as what I eat before I go out on a bike ride, that feeling has completely left.
That's awesome. I love that. That's so awesome. So I think it's safe to say that now that you're eating enough calories, it's making your bike rides feel incredible. Like you can go longer and just ride for days. You're like, let's get on the trails. That's awesome. I love it. This one I'm excited about, our very last principle, which is nutritious foods.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me a little bit about the nutritious foods that you eat now and like maybe some of your favorites or maybe some recipes that you've kind of like discovered within this 5 weeks.
I don't know if I should say this or not. Fruits and vegetables have entered my life.
Yes.
And they've come, I tried doing it like raw at first and see how it would go. And I noticed that I was going to, like, one, I was going through my vegetables very quickly because I wouldn't buy enough because I felt like I'm not going to eat them, but I'm just going to have them here so that I can force myself. And so I did, and they went very quickly. And then I'm like, well, I'm getting my vegetables in, and you mentioned fruits. I'm like, well, that I'm not eating at all. So then I started doing it in smoothies based on the recommendation you made. And I get a lot more vegetables in through the smoothie. I definitely get my fruits in through the smoothie. I've added protein powder, which helps because I've noticed that my protein intake is not always all that great. So the smoothies have helped with that. I noticed that when I take the smoothie, I feel really good. And then that'll be about 12:30 to 1 when I do. And then I end up going on a bike ride at around 4. And I'll try to have like something small, like a banana, or I'll try to have an apple or some peanuts before I go. And then I feel that between the smoothie and whatever small snack I can get before I go on my bike rides, it has changed everything for me. And so food intake, that's been one thing that I can say is new now, which it wasn't before. It was before Chick-fil-A, and now it's fruits and vegetables.
It's so awesome. I love it.
And I mean, I see the benefits and I see what I've done and where you have managed to help me. And I've been able to see that what I was doing before was completely off. And even though it's only been 5 weeks, the small changes that I've made, I've managed to see the benefits so quickly. And it's like, why wasn't I doing this before?
Yeah.
But it's not until you find somebody that kind of guides you and tells you like, this is going to help you. And then you have to invest the time into doing it.
Yeah. It's nutrition is not something that, you can, it is awesome that we can do this in 5 weeks and you can learn so much in just a short amount of time. But I think we both can agree that it's not something that's just like, you can't just fix it in 5 weeks, like you eat this way for so long and you can't just out eat it in 5 weeks. But what we can do is start making those changes so that, eating this way for so long, it does start to balance out and you start surpassing that. And your healthy eating habits, you've been doing those longer than those bad eating habits. So that's super awesome. Thank you so much for doing nutrition with me. I'm so glad I was able to help you and it's been wonderful. So hopefully, you've learned some very valuable things that you can take forward with you and just keep trekking on that bike and win some races. I know you got a couple coming up. So
September.
Yeah. And like I said, like everything in moderation, nutrition is a journey. I've cleaned up my nutrition, it's been about 3-4 years and I still learn about it every day. So stick with it. That's all I can tell you. You have my number. You can text, call if you have any questions or about anything. But some good stuff.
Good.
Cool. I am going to stop recording.